What happens when a royal sits down for what should be a simple morning chat, but instead finds himself facing the toughest questions of his life? In just 19 seconds, everything changed. One comment from host Susanna Reid would spark an explosion that left viewers across Britain speechless, watching as Prince Harry stormed off the Good Morning Britain set in a fit of rage that nobody saw coming. This is the exclusive inside story of the most dramatic television moment that happened last night. And you need to hear every shocking word. The morning started like any other at the Good Morning Britain studios in London. Susanna Reid sat at her usual spot, her notes perfectly arranged, ready to conduct what the producers had promised would be a straightforward interview. Prince Harry had agreed to discuss his latest charity work, something safe and positive that would give the show good ratings without any controversy. But Susanna Reid had other plans. "Good morning, I'm Susanna Reid, and you're watching Good Morning Britain," she said with her trademark smile as the cameras rolled live across the nation. "This morning we're joined by Prince Harry, who's here to talk about his recent charity efforts. Your Royal Highness, thank you for joining us." Prince Harry shifted in his chair, already looking uncomfortable under the bright studio lights. "Thank you for having me, Susanna. I'm always happy to talk about the important work we're doing to help children in need." "Of course," Susanna replied, her voice warm but her eyes sharp. "But before we get to that, I think our viewers would really appreciate some honesty about your recent choices. You've made quite a few headlines lately, haven't you?" The prince's smile faltered slightly. "I'm here to discuss charity work, not personal matters." "But surely you understand that your personal choices affect your charity work." Susanna leaned forward slightly, her journalist instincts taking over. "When you make certain decisions, when you speak out against your own family, doesn't that impact everything else you do?" Prince Harry's jaw tightened. "I think we should focus on the positive work being done." "The positive work," Susanna repeated, nodding slowly. "Like when you accused your own father of cutting you off financially? Was that positive work?" "That's not what this interview is about," Harry said, his voice getting sharper. "But it is about accountability, isn't it?" Susanna pressed on. "You can't expect to make serious accusations against the royal family and then just want to talk about charity when it suits you." The tension in the studio was growing thick. Camera operators exchanged glances as they continued filming the increasingly uncomfortable exchange. "I'm trying to do good in the world," Harry said through gritted teeth. "I thought that's what people wanted to hear about." "People want the truth," Susanna replied calmly. "They want to understand why someone with your privileges feels the need to constantly attack the institution that gave you everything." "Attack?" Harry's voice rose slightly. "I'm trying to bring about change, to modernize things, to make them better. By going on American television and making your family look terrible?" Susanna didn't back down. "By airing private conversations and personal grievances in public? That's your idea of making things better?" Prince Harry stood up suddenly, his chair scraping against the studio floor. "I don't have to sit here and listen to this." "Actually, you do," Susanna said, her voice remaining perfectly calm. "You agreed to this interview. You came here to speak to our viewers. They deserve answers to these questions. Your viewers deserve better than this ambush." Harry shot back, his face reddening with anger. "This isn't an ambush," Susanna replied smoothly. "These are fair questions that any journalist would ask. Unless you think being a prince means you shouldn't have to answer fair questions?" The prince paced behind his chair for a moment, clearly struggling with whether to stay or go. "You're twisting everything I've said and done. I'm simply asking you to explain your actions," Susanna said. "If they can be explained, then explain them. If you believe in what you've done, defend it." "I have defended it," Harry snapped. "Over and over again." "Then defend it now," Susanna challenged. "Tell our viewers why your personal happiness is more important than your duty to your country." That hit a nerve. Prince Harry's face went from red to white in an instant. "How dare you question my commitment to this country?" "I'm questioning your commitment to your responsibilities," Susanna clarified. "There's a difference." "I've served this country," Harry said, his voice shaking with emotion. "I've put my life on the line for this country." "And no one questions your military service?" Susanna acknowledged. "But that was years ago. What have you done lately besides criticize your family and play the victim?" The studio fell silent, except for the quiet hum of the cameras. Prince Harry stared at Susanna Reid as if she had just slapped him across the face. "Play the victim?" he repeated slowly. "That's how it appears to many people," Susanna said, her voice gentle but firm. "You have wealth, privilege, a beautiful family, freedom to live wherever you want, and yet you consistently present yourself as someone who has been wronged." "You have no idea what I've been through," Harry said quietly, but his voice carried a dangerous edge. "Then tell us," Susanna invited. "But tell us without blaming everyone else for your choices." Prince Harry gripped the back of his chair so tightly his knuckles went white. You people are impossible. We people, Susanna raised an eyebrow. You mean the British people? The people you're supposedly trying to serve through your charity work? I mean, the media, Harry spat. People like you who twist everything, who can't just let people live their lives. We're not twisting anything, Susanna said calmly. We're asking direct questions and hoping for direct answers. That's what Journalism Island. This isn't journalism, Harry accused. This is a hit job. This is accountability, Susanna corrected. Something you seem very uncomfortable with. The word accountability hung in the air like a bomb waiting to explode. Prince Harry's breathing became visible, short and sharp, as he processed what Susanna Reid had just said to him. The cameras kept rolling, capturing every micro-expression on his face as he struggled to maintain his composure. Accountability, he repeated, his voice barely above a whisper. You want to talk about accountability? That's exactly what I want to talk about, Susanna confirmed, sitting perfectly still in her chair while the prince towered over her, clearly agitated. Where was the accountability when the press hounded my mother to death? Harry's voice cracked slightly. Where was your precious journalism then? Susanna didn't flinch. That's a fair point about the past, but we're talking about your actions now, your choices now. You can't use past wrongs to justify present behavior. Present behavior? Harry laughed bitterly. What behavior? Trying to protect my family? Trying to live an honest life? Honest? Susanna challenged. Is it honest to sign multi-million-dollar deals while complaining about being cut off? Is it honest to preach about privacy while selling your personal stories to the highest bidder? Prince Harry's face went through a series of emotions, settling on pure fury. You don't know what you're talking about. Then educate me, Susanna said simply. Help me understand how those things work together. I don't owe you any explanations, Harry snapped. You don't owe me anything, Susanna agreed. But you owe the people of this country something. They supported you your entire life. They celebrated your wedding. They mourned with you when your mother died. They cheered for you when you served in Afghanistan. Don't you think they deserve some honesty about why you turned your back on them? Turned my back? Harry's voice rose to near shouting level. I never turned my back on anyone. Then why are you living in America? Susanna asked quietly. Why are you making money by criticizing the very institution that made you who you are? Because that institution is broken, Harry exploded, finally losing all control. Because it's outdated and harmful and refuses to change. So, you decided to change it by running away? Susanna's voice remained calm, which only seemed to infuriate Harry more. I didn't run away, he protested. What would you call it? Susanna asked. You left your duties, your country, your family, and moved to another continent. If that's not running away, what is it? It's called making a choice, Harry said through clenched teeth. Something I'm allowed to do. Of course, you're allowed to make choices, Susanna acknowledged. But choices have consequences. And one of those consequences is that people are going to ask you to explain those choices. I've explained them 100 times, Harry said, starting to pace again. You've made excuses 100 times, Susanna corrected. There's a difference between explaining and excuse-making. That was the final straw. Prince Harry stopped pacing and turned to face Susanna directly, his eyes blazing with anger. How dare you sit there and judge me? You have no idea what it's like to live under that kind of pressure, that kind of scrutiny. You're right, Susanna admitted. I don't know what that's like, but I do know what it looks like from the outside. And from the outside, it looks like someone who had everything handed to him and then complained when it came with responsibilities. Everything handed to me? Harry's voice was shaking now. You think losing your mother at 12 years old is having everything handed to you? You think growing up in a goldfish bowl is a gift? No one thinks losing your mother was a gift, Susanna said gently. But millions of people lose their parents and don't get to spend the rest of their lives using it as an excuse to avoid responsibility. The studio was so quiet you could hear the air conditioning humming. Prince Harry stared at Susanna Reid as if seeing her for the first time, and what he saw clearly disgusted him. You people are absolutely heartless, he said slowly. We're being realistic, Susanna replied. Life is hard for everyone. Tragedy strikes everyone. The difference is that most people don't have the luxury of running away to California and making millions complaining about it. I'm done with this, Harry said suddenly, reaching down to unclip his microphone. We still have 10 minutes left in the interview, Susanna pointed out. Not anymore, we don't, Harry said, yanking the microphone wire free and dropping it on his chair. So you're just gonna walk away? Susanna asked. Just like you walked away from everything else when it got difficult? Prince Harry froze with his hand on the studio door. For a moment, it looked like he might turn around and come back. Instead, he spoke without looking at her. "You know what, Susanna? You can sit here in your little studio and judge everyone else's life choices, but at least I'm trying to make a difference in the world. What are you doing besides tearing people down on live television?" "I'm doing my job," Susanna replied calmly. "I'm asking the questions that need to be asked. I'm holding powerful people accountable for their actions. That's what journalists do." "No," Harry said, finally turning around to face her one last time. "What you're doing is bullying someone for making choices you don't agree with. There's a difference. If asking fair questions about your public statements is bullying," Susanna said, "then maybe you shouldn't make public statements." That was it. Prince Harry's face went completely red, and his hands clenched into fists at his sides. "You are exactly what's wrong with this country. You and people like you. You tear down anyone who tries to be different, anyone who tries to change things, anyone who refuses to just shut up and play along with your little games." "Or maybe," Susanna suggested quietly, "people are just tired of listening to someone with your advantages complain about how hard life island." For several long seconds, Prince Harry just stood there, breathing heavily, looking like he wanted to say something that would probably end his public career forever. Instead, he took a deep breath and seemed to gather himself. "This interview is over," he said in a voice that was surprisingly controlled given how angry he clearly was. "The interview ends when I say it ends," Susanna replied firmly. "You agreed to 30 minutes, and our viewers deserve 30 minutes. Your viewers deserve better than this ambush journalism," Harry shot back. "They deserve honest answers to honest questions," Susanna countered. "If you can't provide those, then maybe that says more about you than it does about the questions." Prince Harry looked around the studio, at the camera still rolling, at the crew members trying to pretend they weren't watching the most dramatic television moment of their careers, at Susanna Reid sitting calmly in her chair waiting for his response. "You know what?" he said finally. "I'm not going to give you the satisfaction of watching me lose my temper on your little show, but I want everyone watching this to know that this is exactly why people like me can't have honest conversations in this country, because people like her turn everything into an attack. People like me ask follow-up questions," Susanna said. "If that feels like an attack, maybe you should examine why." And with that final exchange, Prince Harry turned on his heel and walked straight out of the studio, leaving Susanna Reid sitting alone at the interview desk, the empty chair across from her telling the whole story. The cameras captured it all as she turned to face the audience directly. "Well," she said with a slight smile, "I think that tells you everything you need to know about accountability."